At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu. At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio.
Let's ride! Oh!
Welcome in. Wednesday edition of AFR presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Musso in for Moscona. Of course, Scone enjoying one final vacation while we dive into football season here head first. And that's what we'll do today. Taylor Sharp, Paul O'Neill along for the ride. And glad to have you along for the ride as well. Jam-packed show again. A lot of football. Shea Dixon in the next segment to talk recruiting. Trey Holly is off to Southern. Matthew Paris for a camp report from Saints practice. We heard from Kellen Moore. Brian Kelly spoke at the Rotary. There's a ton to do today. So let us go ahead and begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
All right, and like I said, Matthew Paris will be around here at 4:30 to give us a boots on the ground recap of Saints training camp. But did want to give some thoughts. Saints first practice of the first training camp under Kellen Moore. We'll let you hear from him as well. There's a lot to take in. While it was a shorter practice, Kellen Moore said one of the shortest practices that they will have Wednesday and Thursday. They'll put the pads on next week. So kind of easing into it, right? First practice out there since the summer, easing into it. But there was plenty to go around. We'll get to the quarterbacks, and that's going to really be the bulk of this conversation. But first, just some other things notable to watch. There were no changes along the offensive line. You still had from left to right, Kelvin Banks, Trevor Penning, Eric McCoy, Cesar Ruiz, and Taliese Fuanga. I don't think that really comes as a big surprise, but once they get the pads on next week, it'll be really interesting to see how that unit gels in 11-on-11. Speaking of 11-on-11, you saw the first 11-on-11 team drills of the offseason today as well. We talked on Tuesday about 5 things I wanted to see. One of those was the running backs outside of Alvin Kamara, like guys backing up AK. We really kind of focused in on Kendre Miller. On Wednesday, the first Saints training camp practice, Kendre Miller ran with the second team. Your first team running backs were Alvin Kamara, Devin Neal, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Neal also split the second team reps with Miller. That's intriguing, man, because, again, I know they're high on Devin Neal. And, look, if that pans out and he's great, awesome. Kendre Miller is just the guy that you've kind of been waiting on. If he can stay healthy with a clean slate under Kellen Moore, would this kind of be his time? We'll see kind of where he factors into the rotation, maybe on Thursday and later on in camp. But at least on day one, Kendre Miller running with the second team. And then the other thing would be outside of quarterbacks that we definitely wanted to see was the safety rotation. Obviously, Tyrann Mathieu surprises everybody on Tuesday, retires after 12 NFL seasons. We looked at this and said, man, this is a huge opportunity for a guy like Jonas Sanker. Well, on Wednesday, the first team safeties were Justin Reed and Jordan Howden. Jonas Sanker ran with the second team along with Terrell Burgess, JT Gray, Elliott Davison covered those third team reps. I would expect Sanker to see some reps kind of increase there. We'll we'll obviously talk in with when we get our full training camp report, how he looked, things of that nature. Because, again, the defensive rookies are something that I really wanted to see here in training camp because, for one, the pads are finally going to come on, and you'll finally have team drills. So, interesting. And look, obviously the Saints signed Julian Blackmon Tuesday night. So, I have some thoughts on that for later in the show as well about the signing and when he gets to camp. Obviously, that'll shake up that room a little bit. But your first-team safeties, day one, Justin Reed, Jordan Howden, Jonas Sanker, running second team. Okay, now, the quarterbacks. This is really what everyone wants to hear about, right? And the reps were split. Rattler with the first team, Shuck with the second team, Jake Haener ran with the third team. We'll get into kind of some of their days. But first, Kellen Moore talked about the quarterback's day as a whole and whatnot. And it was a real generic coach speak answer, everything you expect him to say. The media got him to go a little bit deeper. He talked about why Spencer Rattler, this is number 6, Taylor, why Spencer Rattler got the first crack at the first team reps.
Well, I think we have a bunch of statistics and stuff based off OTAs, and I mean these guys are writing it's literally the same exact numbers in every category, and so they're very consistent throughout the whole process. Spencer's obviously been here one more year. We just start with him, and then we'll go from there, and I won't worry too much about that.
So the seniority is a factor there. Experience absolutely plays in, and it should. Tyler Shuck is going to go through a little bit of growing pains here in his first training camp. That kind of happened a little bit today. He had 15 snaps with the second team. Credit Ross Jackson here with these numbers. He ends up 2 of 6 on the day. 4 of 8. They had some playthroughs following sacks, but 2 of 6, 4 of 8. Pick which number you really want. You're going to see him look like a rookie, and he should, and that's okay. He'll get the the first team reps on Thursday. Kellen Moore confirmed that after practice as well. And you heard him even at the end of that cut when he talked about the seniority for Rattler. I wouldn't read too much into that. So the next question kind of becomes, okay, sense of urgency. Does Kellen Moore, in his first year as a head coach, his first training camp, does he feel a sense of urgency in naming a starting quarterback?
The sooner you make a decision, the sooner you can focus in on certain personnel groups and certain consistencies. But we'll let the process take it as long as it needs to, and when we make that decision, we'll roll.
That's kind of a talk out of the both sides of your mouth answer a little bit there, because he talked, the sooner you make the decision, you can get personnel and everything. You can have the offense come together, right? But we'll wait and see how it goes. Then when we make that decision, we'll make the decision. When the time comes, we'll make that decision. I'm not going to say there's a sense of urgency. I 100% believe they want this done as soon as possible, though, so they can really focus in on personnel packages and things that work the best and get the guy who's going to be the guy the most time with the first team as they can leading up into game number 1. That's obvious, right? So I obviously think that is a factor there for Moore. Maybe it's not a sense of urgency, but they definitely like it done as quickly as they can get it done. The other thing that was really interesting in terms of timeline, and we touched on this briefly Tuesday when Kellen Moore met with the media to open up camp. And he really kind of, when he talked about splitting the quarterback reps, said, we'll split them evenly, throughout the 3 guys leading into the first preseason game against the Chargers. And he even went back in that media availability, again, kind of focused in on that first preseason game against the Chargers. And the media asked him Wednesday if that is when they would like to have the decision. Like, coming out of that game, is that kind of your timeline? Because he's focused in on that a couple different times to have the quarterback named then.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is at the end of the day, playing quarterback, there's a lot of things around you, and you're in a controlled environment in practice, and so it's our first chance to play with live action, and the ability to get sacked, the ability to get hit, some of those components there, which will be very valuable for those quarterbacks, and it'll be the first step in that process to see how they respond.
So again, he didn't put a steadfast timeline on it, and everything he's saying there is true. You can only learn so much through training camp. And the Saints are not going to have joint practices this year either. They'll spend the week leading into that first preseason game against the Chargers in Irvine, but they won't have joint practices. And that's really in training camp where you could actually learn the most outside of the preseason games. So, of course, those are going to be massive. And the one against the Chargers is going to be massive. But I think if you could get Kellen Moore in a true moment of candor and ask him that same question about, okay, what do you want determined after that first preseason game? I think he would tell you maybe he doesn't want the starter name, but he wants clearer separation. And maybe you will get separation throughout training camp leading into that. Like, I mean, you got, what, 3 weeks leading into that game? And maybe you start to see some things kind of, pan out. But coming out of that, when you get them in the live game environment, you can see how they manage the huddle in a real game. On an obvious passing down, can they complete the throw? How they react to getting hit, to contact, how they run the offense. The Saints used a lot of tempo on Wednesday in their first training camp practice. So how all of that factors in. Does this quarterback use his legs better than another? Once you get into a real game environment, and I know the result doesn't matter, but it's a real game environment, you absolutely want to see some separation. You want a clearer picture after that first game. If someone establishes themselves and you see a switch in first team reps, and that's what I really want to focus in on after that game is there a switch in how they handle first team reps? Do you see one guy getting more days than the other, or do they continue to split it evenly? That's going to be intriguing, and really the most intriguing part of coming out of that game against the Los Angeles Chargers for your first preseason matchup. The other thing that I really, really liked, and the answer from Kellen Moore was predictable, but he was asked point blank if Tyler Shuck has an edge in this competition because Kellen Moore drafted him and he appears to be, quote, your guy. This is what he said.
I view them all the same. Love these guys. These guys have been awesome all offseason, and fired up just to let those guys play it out and go for it.
Again, it's a dull answer. It's the answer you expected him to say. He's not going to be like, yes, absolutely, Tyler Shuck, that's who we want to emerge out of this. But I do believe that that's who they want to emerge out of this. The fully guaranteed contract. They spent the second round, pick on him, liked him a lot. Liked him enough in the second round that they didn't move back into the first round to take Jackson Dart. Remember, Jackson Dart, the Saints were favored to select him on draft night. But they liked Shuck enough that they stayed, but they didn't move up for him. I think in that situation, that absolutely shows you that, yes, he is Kellen Moore's guy, and that is the guy eventually, maybe it's not week one, but eventually who he wants in that spot. We'll see how it plays out. For what it's worth, Spencer Rattler was fantastic. Per Ross Jackson's charting over at LouisianaSports.net, Rattler goes a perfect 9 for 9 in the team drills and the 9-on-7s. That's awesome to see. That's what you kind of expect from a guy who's got a year in the NFL under his belt. So a solid day from Rattler in his 17 snaps. There you go. That's about half runs, half passes, and he goes 9 of 9. That's awesome. And look, that just kind of continues what you saw from him in OTA and minicamp. So when you have a guy like Shuck, who is the head coach's guy, right, that he brought in, Rattler might feel a little bit of extra pressure to win out and to win that job. And so far, so good. Great OTA, great minicamp, and a great start in day one of training camp for Spencer Rattler as well. All right. Matthew Paris will be here at the bottom of the second hour to give us a full boots-on-the-ground report of everything that he saw on day one of Saints training camp. We're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. We missed Shea Dixon yesterday. We'll talk to Shady next, the latest in LSU recruiting on AFR. All right, back here after further review on a Wednesday presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Musso in for Moscona. We missed Shea Dixon yesterday, but he was good enough to just bump a day for us. So Shea Dixon joins us now on 3 The Bengal Tiger on Twitter X at Shea Dixon. Shady, how are you?
I'm doing well. I missed y'all, so I'm glad you missed me as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a Tuesday ritual, Shay. I mean, it doesn't feel like Tuesday if we don't have you on the show. So glad we could bump it a day to Wednesday. I obviously want to talk plenty of recruiting with you, but feel remiss if we didn't start with Tyrann Mathieu here today. I mean, announces his retirement from the NFL and from football on Tuesday. Obviously, you covered him extensively as a recruit and in his time at LSU. Just a thought on Tyrann's career and how you'll remember him as a player.
I can get in line with the Joe Burrow versus Matthew, who is the best of the modern era debate. I mean, I've been, I guess, around here, at least in Baton Rouge, and so 4-3 range. And golly, they've won a lot of natties. They've been to another. They've had some insane teams that didn't get there, but and look, we're throwing Jaden Daniels in there too. But Matthew is on another level, and I think the thing I always talk about is something that when we lived it, we knew, and then as time went on, we forgot that he was like the shortest player on the field at all times. Like, he was just this small kid that in camps that landing SEC offers, and then all of a sudden he got out there. And I don't know how long it took, but it wasn't long before you just forgot that. Like, that wasn't even a talking point anymore. And I've never seen anyone with those instincts. And I can remember Les Miles once saying, might have been the Florida game, but there was a game that, like every game, he forced a fumble, but he had gone to the ground and ripped the ball out and had kind of fallen over his momentum over the player. And right when his feet landed, he then hops back over the player to then get the ball. It was one of the more, as Les said, he was like, yeah, that just doesn't happen. And that's who Tyrann was. And but I'm glad he got to end it in New Orleans. I'm glad he got his Super Bowl. And honestly, Moose, you want another thing, which was the low point of his career. But when he got kicked off the team, he was sitting like front row at every game.
Yeah.
It wasn't I disappeared. It was here I am. And gave him, him and PP7, gave him $1 million, helped him rebuild ops. And it doesn't get any better than that. So, of course, he retires and he doesn't even get to enjoy his retirement day before LSU fans are like, so you want to come work for us? But is there a chance you can bring Tyrann onto the staff? And I guess my answer would be, first, LSU knows obviously the waves that would create. Yeah. But it's not like, oh, well, they have Corey Raymond as DB coach, or, hey, look, they just got this new guy as the assistant DB coach. There's so many front office roles now, personnel roles, all that involve former players, that involve current players, all of that I think that he could also fit into. So I'm not, if you're asking me, hey, do you think Tyrann will work at LSU one day or not? I'll lean towards yes.
I was going to ask you that, actually, Shay. That was going to be the follow-up because, I mean, as you said, it didn't take long. I mean, we did the segment on yesterday's show, and the first asked for, send in your reaction, and every single thing was, when's he going to coach at LSU? When's he going to coach at LSU? So, I mean, you said yes, so that's obviously something Tyrann would have to be interested in as well. I mean, I'm not going to ask you to speak for him, but, I mean, like you said, he's never disappeared.
No, and I think he's actually tweeted out a lot back in the day. I'm sure you can go find it, but it seemed every couple months he would tweet like, when it's over, I'm coaching it. I'll be at LSU. But like I said, it doesn't have to start as a coach. There's a lot of ways you can have value out of Tyrann Mathieu in a building, in an ops building. So I've got an ear to the ground. Look, I'm sure they'd love to turn it right around, but I bet he wants a little bit of break. He's a family man. He's going to kind of see what's next for him. But I don't see him going like the TV route, or him and PP7 are touring the country golfing at every great location there is. I think that he's a guy whose whole life is football, and I don't think he wants to give that up. So we'll see. Look, we did this before. Kyle Williams retired and went and worked at Ruston, and then it was stepping down. I'm going to spend more time with family. And when that LSU phone rings and they say, hey, you want to put on a purple and gold polo, it kind of changes things in a hurry.
Normally when home calls, the answer is always yes. We'll see. I mean, that's going to obviously be very interesting. let's shift it a little bit to recruiting, which I guess Tyron could be doing for LSU one day. They're about to start camp. So before we kind of get into the class and some individuals in August and things of that nature, what kind of is the recruiting calendar right now for the staff as they are about a week out from camp?
It's weird because the NCAA stopped or took away that one open weekend at the end of July before August and fall camp. So we're nearing the midway point of a 2-month dead period. So the next time they can actually get guys on campus is September, which they play in away games. So you got 3 straight home games. That's a benefit, but you don't have to host, or you won't be hosting any recruits again until then. That said, all of these guys that are still uncommitted, and we'll talk about a few of them, Deuce Geralds and Jace Matthews and Darius Gray, the O-lineman, like all those guys visited LSU multiple times and took official visits to LSU and went ahead and got out of the way all their other visits. So August will bring some decisions, even though it's a dead period, and LSU's going to have hats on the table.
Let's start with Jace Matthews. August 8th is his commitment date. And look, I mean, LSU obviously already has Tristan Keys in the class. Jace Matthews would just, I mean, Shea, you'd know better than me, but I mean, that's got to arguably make them the top receiver class in the country if they can get his commitment and obviously get him signed. Where do things stand with Jace Matthews?
Well, yeah, you think about it. They've got, 4 commits right now at receiver. Jabari Mack and Kenny Darby being 2 in-state guys who are the highest-ranked guys in Louisiana. Tristan Keys is the top guy in the country relative to the rankings and everything like that. And he stayed a 5-star and at the top of that list. I already mentioned Jabari Mack, already mentioned Kenny Darby as the in-state kids. So they're sitting at 3. So the thought was, could you add a 4th? And they did have a 4th at one time, Ja'Kai Anderson. He went to SMU, flipped his commitment there. He's kind of like the prize jewel of their receiver class. And you get it. It's totally understandable. But can you add a 4th? Like right now, Moose, we can argue that these 3 can make up the best receiver class in the country.
That's
and for those that don't know, On3 acquired Rivals. So now when On3 does NIL, team coverage, all of that, and then Rivals, which is the most historic name in recruiting, is kind of rebranded, and we put all of our On3 recruiting stuff into the Rivals side now. So when you see a Rivals ranking, it's the On3 rankings team, so it matches kind of what things have been. And I'm looking at it right now. The wide receiver rankings, there's well over 1,000 guys ranked around the country. I didn't need to scroll past on my phone the first 2 people. Tristan Keys is 1, Jace Matthews is 2. So that's the type of talent we're talking about in Jace Matthews. And he's going to go ahead and announce in early August here, August 8th. Ole Miss, Auburn, LSU, A&M, last team standings. But if you're going to make me pick right now, I'd pick LSU. I know Auburn's been hot and heavy on him. A&M missed on some receivers. They've tried for Tristan Keys. They had Boobie Feaster leave for the West Coast. Some other Texas kids had left for the West Coast. So they're going to be in on him as well. But I don't know. I just think that they've done so well in Mississippi. But for so long, Jace Matthews has been a guy that's been around LSU. And I just think it took a while for LSU fans to look up and be like, oh, he's the number 2 receiver in America. Like, that's how good he is. And you add him to that class, it would remind me of the Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Chris Hilton, Jack Bash group. Deion Smith had signed in that class. He was the number 1 receiver out of Mississippi at the time. But that's the type of kind of talent you're talking about here. And, boy, that would be a nice way to kind of bulk up wide receiver if you will, if you can bring in your 2 best receivers in Louisiana and then the 2 best out-of-state receivers in the country.
Yeah,
who happen to be border states.
Memory serves. The Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, that class, that worked out pretty well for LSU and those guys, both of them first-round picks. Shea Dixon with us on 3, Bengal Tiger, obviously, as he mentioned there, Rivals as well on Twitter X at Shea Dixon. Shea, a couple more for you. Darius Gray, August 9th, it looks like, is his commitment date. And obviously, Bo Davis has done a tremendous job on the offensive line. They're going to have to go out of state to pull Darius Gray. Where do things stand there?
Look, and Steve Wiltfong does such a great job. Chad Simmons, those guys, Sam Spiegelman from the national side. But Wiltfong's really been tuned in with Darius Gray for a long time, and he put his LSU pick in a while back. And Gray's made unofficial visits, his official visit weekend with family. And even though he's from Virginia, we've seen Brad Davis and his staff go out to the East Coast, wherever, to sign kids. And Darius Gray has just been a massive priority for him. And let's go ahead and get this out of the way. He's a 5-star and the number one interior O-lineman in the country. And last year, that's where Carius Curran sat as the top 2 interior O-lineman and at number one, 5-star prospect. And the year prior, Tyler Miller coming out of Mississippi, or was that 2 years ago, was Weston Davis, who was late flip, but 5-star, number one at the position. You just can't count Brad Davis out and the staff out on these guys. And I'm still leaning LSU. There's a couple weeks left. It's the NIL era, but it's a lot like Lamar Brown. There's a million teams involved, but I always knew that it would come down to LSU and A&M. And I think everybody feels this is going to come down to South Carolina, team near him, and LSU. They prioritized him for a long time. So one of those teams is my guess, but I picked on LSU, and I haven't moved it yet. So, if you want to round out a really nice O-line class, it's been very offensive tackle heavy. No better way to do it than go ahead and get the number one interior O-lineman in the country.
And then, Shea, Deuce Gerald's on the defensive line. I mean, LSU already has a solid defensive line class. Looks like they're battling. I mean, Oregon and Ohio State definitely stand out here with Gerald's. Is this an outside shot for LSU, or are they very much in this?
Well, they're very much in this. I mean, remember his dad, Davern Geralds, played at Scotlandville and went to Ole Miss when Frank Wilson and Coach O, everybody was there. But Frank was the primary recruiter, and now Frank's here. So that's really kind of helped them out for getting him to campus and then getting the whole family in for the official visit. And he's been very quiet, Moose, about who might lead. I mean, even I can tell you, talking to people behind the scenes in different colleges, they're all like, so who leads here? Who leads here? Who leads here? And kudos to him for kind of keeping it quiet. I saw an Oregon pick go in, but I can also tell you there's some nervous moments around Oregon the past week of, are we going to get him or not? And I think, look, yes, his dad went to Ole Miss. Yes, they prioritized him. Ole Miss hasn't had a great run this year on kind of in the trenches, certainly on the O-line, but can they reel in a legacy in Gerald's? I wouldn't rule him out. He's leaving Georgia. That's where he plays his high school ball. I'm with you that Ohio State has a ton to sell. I don't think he goes to Michigan. That's the other school. Mm-hmm. If I'm putting a pick in, I'm putting it on LSU. And it's not done, but I just get a gut feeling that when the dust starts to settle, with family still in Scotlandville and the Baton Rouge area and all of that, and his familiarity with the staff and, kind of the relationship he's built with Kyle Williams, Blake Baker, Kevin Peoples, whomever it might be, and then, even people on the personnel side, that LSU's not out of this. They are in the top group and kind of going toe-to-toe with the Oregons of the world.
Shea, you're bringing the heat today, man. That's 3 straight LSU picks from you.
Yes,
from
but
you
that
right
was
there.
all I had, so I'm done now.
Last one for you, man. I really appreciate it. Where the class stands. I mean, look, man, there's been so much shuffling in those recruiting rankings. Does LSU still have a shot at the number one class?
If all my guesses there come to fruition, we sure do bulk it up a good bit. And it'll be a smaller class by design, because I think in the NIL era, rev shares here. And now they finally have a roster that is well balanced, that you don't need to go sign 30 high school kids. You just don't. So what's the approach? Well, it's signed 20 to 25, right? And right now they have 16 commits. It's easily a top 10 class. It's been kind of fluctuates in 1 for a lot of time. But, if you go a month without getting any commits or whatever, and other teams start getting commits, it all kind of shuffles. But you add 2 of the 3 of those, and you're right back into the top 3. So they can push for number one, but at the same time, I think beyond those guys, maybe you find he's still not a quarterback, so you're going to go into the season trying to flip somebody. But I would guess they hit 20 and maybe a little above that, but it won't be your typical 25 to 30 man class just because they don't need it. I mean, find the guys you feel best about, get all your rev share and NIL in order, get your playing time in order, and go after them. And I think that's kind of the smart move right now. So that's the names I'm watching. A position like quarterback, obviously tight end could be a position that takes them over 20. But right now, I think all the focus is on what happens here in the coming weeks with, as you mentioned, a borderline 5-star in Deuce Gerald's at D-line, a 5-star on the O-line in Darius Gray, and a 5-star at receiver in Jace Matthews.
Quality over quantity. It's a great approach. I like that approach an awful lot. He's Shea Dixon with us every week here on AFR, on 3 the Bengal Tiger, Rivals Network now as well. Get him on Twitter X at Shea Dixon. Shea, we appreciate it as always, man. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good.
All right, that is Shea Dixon. We're going to grab a break, but first, Matt's going to tell you about First South Farm Credit. All right, welcome back in after further review here on a Wednesday, presented by Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Let's go ahead and go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the Ole Miss Rebels.
Oh, boy. Multiple sources have confirmed to 247 Sports that Ole Miss junior tight end Luke Haas recently suffered a right ankle injury. He underwent surgery on Friday. It is expected to sideline him for the majority of the 2025 season, if not longer. 6'3", 240-pound, massive offseason addition for Lane Kiffin. Remember, he spent his freshman and sophomore seasons with Arkansas, where he really burst onto the scene. Now out for the majority of the season for Ole Miss in 2025. They will rely now on Daquan Wright, Trace Bruckler, and Hayden Bradley, second major injury of Haas's college career.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
Georgia defensive back commit Chase Calicut was arrested in Texas, charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, according to Fox 26 in Houston. His future status in Georgia's recruiting class of 2026 is unknown at this time. According to the report, it was him and another teen. They were allegedly in an incident involving 2 other teenagers they knew from school. The report states that Calicut made allegedly multiple erratic moves in a car, including speeding ahead and hitting the brakes. After the teens in the other car were able to pull ahead, apparently a gunshot was heard, and another person driving behind them did cite a passenger in the car firing a gun out of the window. He committed to Georgia back in June over Texas and Michigan. We'll see what comes of it.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Alabama lands a commitment from quarterback Tayden Kawa. He's out of the state of Utah, a 3-star. Announced his decision to commit to the Tide over BYU Tuesday evening. 6'5", 235-pounder, second quarterback and the 20th commit for Alabama's 2026 class. He is the 26th ranked quarterback in the composite and the 6th place best player in Utah.
The Auburn Tigers.
And Auburn baseball, they have extended Coach Butch Thompson and given him another raise. 6 years the extension through 2031, potentially 2 rollover years as well. New base salary of $1.5 million, also built-in incentives that could push that higher. The deal also includes an increase in pay for Auburn's staff. That moves them now into the top half of the SEC in terms of head coach and assistants and support staffs. It's well-deserved. They're coming off another strong season, 41-20, hosted the first super regional in school history. There you have it. That is around the SEC. This is after further review here on a Wednesday. Musso in for Moscona. Scone is back on Monday. We'll grab a break, come back, close out hour number 1 of AFR. Jimmy Graham got lost in the shuffle yesterday with the Tyrann Mathieu news, but he is also set to retire here in the coming days as a Saint. Has some thoughts. We'll give you those to close out hour 1 next.
AFR is brought to you by Parish Restoration. Kill mold, remove odor, other harmful pathogens, commercial or residential. As a matter of fact, Parish Restoration, I love the process, by the way. If you go to the website at parishrestoration.com, you can see videos of their patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. So you see exactly what it looks like. very cool. But they have fogged over at Parish Restoration. They fogged one of the largest buildings in the entire state of Louisiana. So it doesn't matter if it's your office building, your church, whatever it may be, school, or your home. They can even fog your car. Maybe your car has a weird odor, musty smell. Maybe you bought a used car from a smoker and you can't get that smoky smell out. This will do it. They'll come while you're at work, fog it. By the time you're done with work for the day, boom, you're back in a clean-smelling, fresh-smelling vehicle. It's Parish Restoration. Learn more at parishrestoration.com. Parishrestoration.com. Do business with someone you know. Parishrestoration.com.
Off the play fake. Breeze throws. Jimmy Graham, touchdown.
That was one of 51 career touchdowns for Jimmy Graham in 5 seasons with the New Orleans Saints. His career set to come to an end. This got lost in the shuffle a little bit on Tuesday because of the Tyrann Mathieu news. But, I mean, Jimmy Graham is one of the best Saints, and it obviously deserves its own time, its own day to really dive in. So on Tuesday, John DeShazer of the Saints website, JD, had a report that Jimmy Graham planned to officially announce his retirement in the near future. Jimmy Graham would come behind the report from JD and confirm it. He has not officially announced, but he has confirmed the report that he will, and that he will retire a New Orleans Saint. And while that is absolutely how it should be, make no mistake, that was absolutely the plan from Jimmy Graham when he was traded and found his way back to New Orleans. When he met with the media after the trade back on July 31st, 2023, Jimmy Graham talked about he was trying to get back to New Orleans for a very long time. And he also said the conversations with his agent, Jimmy Sexton, were New Orleans or nothing.
A bunch of teams had reached out last year, and I talked to Jimmy Sexton and just made it clear that if I don't retire as a Saint, then I wasn't going to play again. So that was kind of the termination.
There it is, right there. Made it clear to his agent, if I don't retire with the Saints, then I'm just not going to play again. And ultimately, I mean, because remember, he could have come in and signed a one-day contract, right, and retired a Saint that way. But instead, Jimmy Sexton found a way to get him back to New Orleans, found a way for him to play one more season in the black and gold. And look, while 2023 wasn't great for Jimmy Graham, he did end up with 4 touchdowns. It just took Dennis Allen and the Saints way too long to figure out how to get him involved, which is absurd. He was still a great red zone target even at his older age. But it's what you'll remember about Jimmy Graham before that and how he really took the Peyton and Bree, or how big of a part he was to take the Peyton and Breeze offense really to the next level. A 3rd-round pick in 2010, 386 career catches, over 4,700 career yards, and the 51 touchdowns in 5 seasons with the Saints. I mean, more than half of his yards came in a New Orleans Saints uniform. We know he wanted receiver money at the end, and it wasn't going to work out, so he ends up obviously in Seattle, Green Bay, and a couple in Chicago, and he never really reached the heights. But that's not ultimately what it's about. It's about Jimmy Graham's legacy that he left with the Saints and the fact that he was the best tight end in football in those first 4 years in the league that he spent with New Orleans. I mean, it was, yes, Gronk was there, and you can have that conversation, but it's hard to argue against Jimmy Graham being the best tight end in football, and his journey is incredible. Where, I mean, he played football for 2 years at Miami. Other than that, he was a basketball player, and a really good one. And it led to the trademark slam dunk celebration and all the things that we'll remember about Jimmy Graham. And he was a major factor on what many believe is the greatest Saints team in history in 2011. Like a major, major factor. And in fact, that was his first 1,000-yard season. It was his career high in receiving yards in 2011 with 1,300. In 2013, he led the entirety of the NFL in receiving touchdowns. He was absolutely awesome. In his time with New Orleans, 3-time Pro Bowler, a first-team All-Pro, a second-team All-Pro. He'll go down in history. He's the best tight end in Saints history. And, I mean, he'll obviously be Saints Ring of Honor, Saints Hall of Fame, maybe even Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's certainly got a case there, and one that I think ultimately he will end up in there. So congratulations on a great career for Jimmy Graham. He also just set a world record with part of a rowing team, fastest time across the Arctic Circle. So congratulations on that. A great career, and one we will remember, obviously, for a very, very, very long time. A great Saint, Jimmy Graham. Congratulations on his retirement. Okay, we're going to grab a break. Sports Center will get you caught up on national headlines. When we come back, the Saints have signed Julian Blackmon as a safety. We'll tell you everything you need to know about that next here on AFR.